You can try your first 30 days for free of the HerbRally Schoolhouse at herbally.com/schoolhouse and just enter coupon code podcast at checkout. We release epic new video classes each week. We're building a growing library of diverse herbal education in video, audio, and written form, co-created with some of the most experienced and highly esteemed herbalists around. One more time, to learn more, head to herbally.com/schoolhouse. And don't forget to use coupon code podcast at checkout to try your first 30 days for free. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. The content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. This information has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. We are not doctors, nor do we play one on the internet. Please seek advice from a qualified healthcare professional. Okay, MC Calico, take it away.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some Mullen and some Kush, my brethren. While listening to HerbRally podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchinson. Yeah.
Eclipsic Herbs says, I'd love to know their thoughts on how nutrition advice can vary based on culture. Oh yeah, I really liked this one. For instance, here in the States, carbs like rice are frowned upon, even though many cultures around the world see it as a staple food. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, that's one of the when I look at myself as somebody working with folks functionally, part of it is like, well, what part of the world is this person from, or their ancestors from, and we're kind of wired to eat what we're used to. And one of the examples that I think of, I'm doing a presentation this week on health benefits of salt. The title of the war on salt. We can probably do a whole conversation just about salt, and there's the Korean paradox where in the Korean diet they'll have 6,000-7,000 milligrams of salt a day as a regular part of their diet, and not having any. They have the lowest rates of high blood pressure, of the other populations that have been studied. And salt has been demonized as being problematic for raising blood pressure. So we've been told since the 70s not to use salt. Again, it's not really good information. The reason that we have high blood pressure would be more from the extra insulin that we have when we have a high sugar diet, and the sugar insulin makes us retain sodium and raise our blood pressure. So again, it's looking at it a little bit closer to what's really going on is always a good thing. So I try to, when I'm working with folks, as doing a coaching session or when I'm teaching, I try to be where the folks are and where they are culturally. And so if somebody's is having issues with blood sugar imbalance, maybe they need to look at where in their diet they can moderate the carbohydrates. Maybe it might not be the rice part if that's part of their culture and their comfort to have. It might be looking at other ways to reduce carbohydrates so that they can meet their health goals.
Just on the salt front, doesn't it kind of depend on what kind of salt you're consuming too? Say the pure refined stuff versus say the Himalayan pink salt. Yeah,
definitely, and that's part of the problem is we can have all sorts of health challenges when we eat a lot of processed food that's loaded in sodium, and but we really need it. It's critical. When I work with folks that are with athletes, one of the first things I talk to them about is don't be drinking so much water unless you're having a lot of salt with it. And you can make your own. If I can give you a quick recipe for a quick electrolyte drink that you don't have to purchase. So I will get real salt, which is one of my favorites. It's from Utah, and I think it might have the most complex mixture of trace minerals or electrolytes in it. And I take a quart mason jar, and,
the appropriate name.
And I put a cup of real salt in it, fill it up with water, let it sit overnight. And it's something that's called Soleil. Maybe you've heard of that. It's an old-fashioned way of doing electrolytes. So when you get up the next morning, you'll notice there's a little layer of salt at the bottom of the jar, and then you know that water is fully saturated. It's holding all the sodium chloride and all the other trace minerals in there. And after we've been sleeping all night and being dehydrating, not hydrating while we're sleeping, start your day off with a tall glass of water, warm water. Add a tablespoon or two of the Soleil to that water and drink that to start your day, to rehydrate. Start your day off that way. And I use that, I'll suggest that a lot with athletes or anybody that's the summer when we're sweating more,
Sure.
losing more. But if we're just getting water intake and not getting the trace minerals that come in that salt, then we can be dehydrated, because basically we're pouring water in and pouring it out and not using it. And I jokingly say with the folks, when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, you're seeing that, make sure everything's working right. You're seeing a billion cells that are working together. Each of those cells need nutrients and need water. So you want to get that water to the cells, and that those electrolytes or trace minerals is the delivery system.
Such a good reminder. I've been trying to be better about waking up in the morning, just chugging a pint of spring water right when I get up, as opposed to immediately consuming some sort of stimulant. And I love the tip about making it. You call it the Soleil.
Soleil, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I've been doing that for years as well. Where
you can add a little bit of lemon juice as well, and to help with the acid-alkaline balance.
Sure.
That'll be a good thing as well. And or apple cider vinegar, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
And it's just a great way to start your day off, and maybe later on have some of the stimulants.
Sure.
If you need that. My goal in life is not to need that.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
I think pretty much for most of my, there were, years ago, my first career was as a dairy farmer, and I worked a lot of hours and didn't get a lot of sleep. Often had to get up in the middle of the night to help support a birth of a calf or something, and so I needed that coffee to get started.
Sure.
But for most of my life, I've prided myself on just being ready to go.
Yeah.
From not having to need a coffee to wake up.
It's definitely become a crutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love a good organic coffee. I love the taste, but I'll have that later in the day,
Right.
just for enjoyment, not to wake me up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, we got onto water. That's great. I didn't expect that.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.